owes a certain amount of allegiance to the United States government. And I think there's a very strong possibility that a phone call came in from the U.S. State Department, and they asked Sweden to do what they could to, put the kibosh on this guy, nail his feet to the floor, and I think they're cooperating with what the United States government asked them to do. Frankly, if I was this guy Assange, I'd be worried that they were using this time to get a CIA rendition group together, and that as soon as the Brits finally throw their hands up and say, hey, this is a bunch of crap, we're not going to hold this poor guy any longer. He walks out of jail thinking he's a free man, and somebody puts a black bag over his head, and he finds himself in a rendition center in Eastern Europe somewhere. I mean, it's happened before.
Wasn't it had to do, I'm perhaps thinking they were underage or something like that. I don't know if you.
No, at least one of the women is in her late 20s, the other's in her early 30s.
Whoa, okay, I guess that doesn't apply then. Okay.
No, he's one of the women is a published author. She's got a number of articles that she's published, and I don't want to say this woman makes Helen Reddy look real prim and proper, but she has basically written a how-to manual. How to get at your get at your boyfriend, how to take revenge on your boyfriend if he pisses you off. I mean, she writes this type of material, so she has kind of a history of snaring men using her female wiles, and then punishing them for finding her attractive. She has a history of doing this, consider the source. Consider the source. I mean, I'm not saying this guy Julian Assange is, lily white and pure, or that he walks on water or anything of that nature. He's a man, and he likes a good-looking woman. And frankly, I think he was thinking with the little head instead of the big one, and got him in trouble.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny how this, all of a sudden all these things come up. I do know that some of it has been leaked. I think in one case it was leaked by some PFC sergeant, and he was like intelligence or something like that. And I guess he released the documents to WikiLeaks. And I'm going to kind of give you my issue with it. I don't think they really should be, publishing, secret or top secret documents, even though I admit I would be kind of interested to see.
Rated top secret at best so far. What they've released is classified. This is classified.
Oh, okay,
material.
Classified. Okay.
One in 300 people in the United States had access to this material.
Oh, okay. But, I wasn't sure on all the.
To that one. So and okay, if you change hats, if you put your journalist hat on, okay, and all of a sudden into your lap falls a whole bunch of juicy gossip, I think any journalist worth his weight in salt certainly would have published this material. I mean, it's just flat good news. It sells newspapers, and journalists only owe allegiance to their readers. They owe no allegiance. That is why there's an amendment in the Constitution that clearly gives them the right to publish exactly this type of politically charged material. So I would argue that one. On the basis of journalistic practices. This material was newsworthy. They didn't steal the material. The material dropped in their lap, and they published it like any good news organization would.
Now, Uncle Al, I guess in the chat room, said there's two cases. Something has been blanked out by the RC chat, and sexual molestation and other sexual molestation.
There's two separate women that one of the women has basically dropped off the face of the earth. She's gone over to Palestine to help the Palestinians. So at this point, there's only one prospective charge that, but again, no charges have been filed. There is no criminal case against this guy. He's being held for questioning is all. That's it. There have been no charges placed against this man.
Well, tell you the truth, there really can't be, because a lot of the U.S. laws only apply to the U.S. and he's not a citizen. Like some people were saying, well, I don't know about espionage. I don't know if that's international law, but as far as, like treason or something like that, they don't have specific laws for that. But sometimes they do have like an agreement with other countries, for extradition or, things like that. But so I think that's why they can't really charge him with anything, because he didn't break, since he's not a U.S. citizen. But
well, frankly, he broke no U.S. law. Even if he was a U.S. citizen publishing this material for the Washington Post, he broke no U.S. law. Okay, I mean, look back, not in the too distant past, back in the 1970s during the Nixon administration. There were a couple of Washington Post reporters back in the day when the U.S. News Agency actually did some serious hardball reporting. A guy named Woodward and a guy named Bernstein, who happened to have this bunch of documents called the Pentagon Papers dropped in their lap. And they agonized over it. But, they published it. They were newspaper men. They had newsworthy material that, was a gift from God. It fell in their lap. They looked at it and said, whoa, baby, this is some good stuff. And they published it. Woodward and Bernstein broke no law. A guy named Ellsberg, who may indeed have been the one responsible for releasing the material, he was brought up on charges. But Woodward and Bernstein broke no law and were never charged with anything. Well, this guy Assange has broken no law. As far as I can tell, all he did was what a journalist is supposed to do. He reported the news.
Yeah, but well, I was thinking about it too, if they could kind of charge him, because I know, like, he's not the one originally got a hold of all these documents that are, confidential or whatever classification they are, but couldn't it be considered being like an accomplice? Like, let's say somebody robs a bank and you drive him in your car, that you could be, you could be considered accomplice to the crime. I'm not saying this is in this case, but I'm, kind of throwing that out there.
They'd have to really stretch the interpretation of the law to get it covered that way. I mean, let's face it. This WikiLeaks outfit is a news agency. Their only responsibility is to truthfully report the news. That's it. They have no other responsibility, no obligation to anybody other than truthfully report the news. So, how are you going to charge them with treason? I mean, under our Constitution, they have every right in the world to hold the government's feet to the fire with information that they didn't want to get out once they got it. Now, if this guy Assange had put on a ski mask and broken into some federal building and rifled their file cabinets and stolen that material, they may have a charge against him, but he didn't do that. He had this material dropped on him, he published it like any good newsman would do. So, frankly, I think the government's sucking wind. They got no charge against this guy. They got no beef with him. The material is embarrassing. It has embarrassed people in power who aren't accustomed to being embarrassed. They're, thumping their chest and making a lot of noise, but the fact of the matter is, this guy did no wrong.
Farger just said this is going to turn into a great movie script, though. That's what he said. But
you betcha.
I don't see it.
It's going to make a great movie. I hope Coppola gets it.
Yeah, there you go, Francis Ford Coppola. Well, now now it's kind of going into the with this these cyber attacks now. Now I don't think it's before I called him the founder, and I don't know much about WikiLeaks. I just know about this particular snafu that's been going on recently with WikiLeaks. I knew about him before, but I don't really go to the website. I don't know who runs it or anything like that. But I guess the editor-in-chief, I guess we'll call him that. Now, with these cyber attacks, on my view, I don't think he's the one that really, recently with these attacks, I don't think he really had anything to do with it. It just, I guess these cyber people just, were for the open web, and then I guess, they started going for WikiLeaks,
Well,
I guess.
here's a perfect example. Okay, now say, just for giggles, how many people do we have in the chat room right now? We got a little less than 30 in the chat room. Well, just let's say we were running a real popular chat room, and we had maybe 10,000 people in the chat room. And you and I got to, chatting back and forth, and we said, damn that PayPal. Cut off the funding for my buddies over at WikiLeaks. I think those guys are jerks. What do you think? And you said, yeah, that's pretty rotten. They had no call to do that. I mean, it's not like WikiLeaks did anything illegal or did anything against their terms of service. I mean, they're a perfectly legitimate business. And, I think we ought to get those sons of guns over PayPal. And there's 10,000 people listening to us go back and forth, and they're sitting there nodding, saying, that's a darn good idea. There was no official call to arms where 10,000 people decided to all go to MasterCard's website at the same time and open about 100 browsers, all trying to browse. So each of 10,000 people trying to hit MasterCard's website with 100 separate browser instances at the same time. There was no organized effort to make that come down, but that is how these cyber attacks are organized. They aren't organized. There is no company or organization or central authority that got people doing this. It was just basically a hacker's chat board that just happens to be called anonymous. They were discussing this situation, and enough of them got pissed off and decided to do something about it all at the same time that I understand MasterCard's website was quite literally brought to its knees. PayPal was limping along. Visa wasn't doing real good. And there's a certain bank in Switzerland that froze a bunch of WikiLeaks assets. They were apparently having a lot of trouble too. I mean, bottom line is, this is how people have gotten accustomed to expressing themselves. You got enough people pissed off. They know for a fact if they go stand in front of the courthouse with a sign that says, leave WikiLeaks alone, they know that ain't going to get anybody's attention. That ain't going to get anything done. They also know that if they take, shall we say, passive resistance, that does get people's attention. And I believe that you'll find that's really how it evolved. That's how it was handled. And apparently there's enough of them pissed off that MasterCard's still having trouble, even as we're speaking now. So did WikiLeaks do it? No. Enough individual computer users were pissed off enough about this scenario and decided to take their own action that the cumulative effect was significant. That's how a denial of service attack goes.
Now, I think with the denial of service attacks, I think it was kind of coordinated, but not, quite enough. Because normally, if you're going to do a really good denial of service attack, a lot of times these hackers will take control of other people's computers that don't even know this, and botnets are. I'm not 100% sure. And then once they have control of all these hundreds or thousands of computers, and then they just send the remote command and attack certain sites. But these sound like more as individuals doing it by themselves that didn't really have control over other computers. So I think like some of the smaller sites were affected. Oh, go ahead.
The information I have is that it was possible to send an email to this anonymous